So today we're going to start off with some site assessment. Now that is to say, are we going to install Sky in the right place? So as anybody who has used a Sky will know, depending on the capacity of the Sky appliance, we do have different hardware, or what we'll say virtual hardware requirements. Now, as you can see, they are fairly light until you start to get up into the larger pools over 30 terabytes. And you will note if you do need encryption, we do require extra cores to support that encryption. Now, to get started, what I'm going to suggest is that you actually make a VM. I like Debian, use whatever you like. And we're going to set it up in the same ESX, same vSphere, using the same data store that our Sky appliance would use. Now, when we set it up, we're going to set our reservations and our resources in the same fashion we would if we were deploying Sky itself. Now, these upfront steps are to give us a good idea of whether or not we're going to be putting Sky in the right place. Maybe this isn't the right ESX host. Perhaps there's too many other VMs occupying the LUN that this ESX host talks to. Now, of course, that will hurt performance. And we can figure all of this stuff out ahead of time before we're actually trying to go into production by doing some of these preliminary tests. Now, you really only need to do this once. So if you were going to install 7 Skies, you could really make this VM, clone it, and then push it around to the different environments you want to assess to see if they're suitable candidates for the installation of a Sky appliance. Now, as I said, I would advise installing a test VM. I like Debian. You can use what you like. If you are a Windows person, maybe OS2 Warp, whatever OS works best for you is absolutely fine. Now, the configuration we're going to be doing is not actually at the VM host level. It's going to be underneath at the ESX level. We're actually going to be configuring the VM container to make sure that it's as close as Sky as we can get, so we can really get a good look at this environment and make sure that we're installing in the right place. So the Sky appliance do need to have CPU and memory reserved for that VM. We also want ballooning to be disabled. Now, all of the reasons that VMware will tell you that ballooning is great and that we want it are actually all the reasons that we do not want it in Sky. We don't want dynamic provisioning of resources. We don't want other VMs saying, hey, Sky's only using 20% of its memory. Let's go ahead and take some of that for this other VM that's really busy. What ends up happening is you end up with a request to perform a workload on Sky, and that balloon filter will have taken your resources and allocated them to another VM, leaving the Sky unable to perform as we tell you it will. So the next step is going to be to create 3 disks. And now these disks are going to represent your pools. And at this point, we can either do some test disks, and I'll describe the minimum sizes for a test, or we can actually make the disks that we would be using for the pools for the Sky appliance. If you have the ability to do this, this is what I recommend. This will allow us to get a really good look at that LUN performance. And once we've done the testing that I'm going to describe shortly, we know fairly well that these pools that we've created are on the right storage, the right network configuration to work well. Now, if you don't have the ability to put in the full-size pools, some test pools will work fine. That will still allow us to look at things like the traffic path, the availability of the controller, and we can still run some of our network and disk performance testing. So if we are going to do just the minimum, just to do some testing, we need 400 gigabytes for the primary pool. Now, the primary pool is where the Actifio software lives. You're never actually going to store any data there. Now, the snapshot pool needs to be a 10 gig minimum, and dedupe needs to be 1 terabyte minimum. And once you've got those disks set up, we can actually start looking at site assessment. Thank you for joining us for another YouTube Tech Tip video. If you like the content you're seeing on this channel, please remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you will be alerted to any future content.